about the availability in this room with the defending winner of the Monster Energy NASCAR All-Star Race and driver of arguably the coolest car in the field this weekend, the number 4 Busch Beer Millennial Car Ford, and that is Kevin Harvick. Kevin, not only talk about the car, but can you talk about sort of the activation Busch did with all those videos on social media? That was very funny.
Yeah, obviously, I think as you look at, Busch and Mobile One, but, with the Busch brand team, they've obviously done a great job of activating not only this program, but the Car to Can at Daytona was, one of the biggest things that they've ever done, and who would have thought something so ugly would be so popular. But it's great interaction, and it's been a lot of fun to go through the whole thing and to really see it all rolled out. Just makes me proud to be a part of a great team of people that have done a great job. So I've learned a few new words, and still don't really know exactly what they mean, but we've had a lot of fun with it. And as you go through things like this, to poke fun at yourself and not really know what's going on is part of the fun. So it's been a great promotion, and I never thought, looking at it on a piece of paper, that it would be something that everybody talked about so much.
All right, thank you, Kevin. If you have a question for Kevin, please raise your hand and we'll get you a mic. Start with Bob here in the middle.
Bob Pockers, Fox Sports. Does the sport still need a 600-mile race? Is that one of those traditions you feel needs to stay?
There are definitely traditions that need to stay. I think that's one of them. I think as you look at the Coke 600 and you look at the Daytona 500, the Southern 500, anything past that, I would probably say you need to shorten your race. Why?
Yeah, why is the 600 iconic? Or
Have you ever won it?
I don't know.
I probably can't explain it to you then. But honestly, it's just like it's a crown jewel race. It's close to home. Everybody puts a lot of effort into it. Mobile One puts a lot of effort into it because it is a 600-mile race, and they want to prove that their parts and pieces look better than everybody else's who doesn't have Mobile One in them. So, there's a lot of things to prove, and everybody wants to win at Charlotte, and the 600 is one of those races that every driver and team in that garage are going to say that they want to win. And there's only 3 or 4 races that everybody in the garage is going to say, those are 3 or 4 races that we can agree on as being our crown jewel races. It's not the answer you wanted? You didn't? I got you.
Kevin, Steve Reed from the Associated Press. The All-Star race, again, second straight year, they're using it more as a R&D project, I guess, for next year. Do you like that as a driver or not?
It's really it's a race that you can try some things like that. I wish we would have had a little bit more on-track time with the parts and pieces that we had on the car to have a little bit of information on the things that are going on. We had a lot of questions that got answered, today in practice. If you would have not told me that we had a different splitter and hood ducts on the car, I would have probably not known the difference. So, it didn't really affect any of the handling problems that you have with the car. They still don't handle as well as they need to behind each other, but it's not any different than what it was, with or without them.
Go to Lewis and then Barry.
Louis Franco, Reuters. Getting back to your car, have you had to explain to Keelan what some of the stuff meant? And as a responsible adult, how do you get around it?
He hasn't been past the fact that it's pink. So he has just asked me, why am I driving a pink car? And why did I agree to that? So I haven't really pushed it any further than that. And he's got a baseball game and a couple of things to do tomorrow, so he's not going to be hanging around all day. As long as we don't get to a few of the initials on the hood, we'll be in good shape.
Barry?
Barry Richmond, Piedmont Broadcasting, WAKG. You talked about the longevity.
Where are you at?
Oh, over here.
Okay.
You talked about the length of some of the races, and the sport certainly can support that. But for a race like the 600, what is the point of exhaustion for a driver, and has the stages ramped it up, or has it given you a break in the race, again, given that that is the 600?
Well, you know, I think as you look at it, my opinion of whether we should have stages or not is neither here nor there. We have four stages of the race, and there's 70 points on the line, so it's important. You know, I think as you look at the amount of points that you can gain from winning those stages, stages are important. I mean, you need to win stages, and that was, you know, we did that. We did well last week in winning a stage and getting a bonus point and finishing second in the second stage. And from there, whatever happens is kind of icing on the cake, you know, from a point standpoint, just because of the fact that you've had a good part to the night. You had a third part to that with a third stage. You know, it's that much more important. So there's a lot of points, you know, on the line that can, you know, last year we blew a tire and never even made it to the end of the first stage, and Kyle won everything and gained 70 points on us in one night. That's more than any other race by 10. So if you have a perfect night, so it just depends on how hot it is. If it's going to be as hot as they forecast it to be, it'll be a long day. But you know, you're mentally programmed to go 500 miles. So you know, your body kind of knows when you've done this for a long time. It kind of knows that it's like, hey, what are we doing here? And you have to mentally tell yourself that really, you know, when you look at the scoreboard and they tell you you're halfway done, it's really not that great of a sign, because you know that you have a long ways to go and you already feel like you've gone a long ways. So it's, you know, for us, it's a little bit different mental preparation in order to keep yourself from being wore out, you know, 400 or 500 miles in, to make sure that you're ready for the last 100 miles that are extra.
Go to Mark and then Jim.
Mark Carroll, PRN. Kevin, I just asked this question, Jimmy and Kyle. How do you feel about the way NASCAR is so patriotic? It's not only Memorial Day, but week in, week out. It just seems as a sport, we just kind of stand up and salute.
As a sport, you do it better than any other sport. And, you know, I think that's one thing. And for us, we do, and Charlotte Motor Speedway does a great job on Memorial Day to, you know, showcase the military and how much appreciation we have for it. But this isn't something that just happens one week in a year for us. This happens every single week. I mean, the amount of support that are here for our military and the appreciation for our military and the things that they do show up every single week at a NASCAR race, and there isn't a sport that does it as good.
Jim?
.com. Last week, aside from the finish, did you feel that was the best car in the best position to win that you've been this season? And do you feel that it was good timing considering you're coming to similar track at Charlotte?
It was the best weekend that we've had on a 1.5 mile racetrack. You know, I think as you look at the performance of the car, we lost a little bit of the handling at the end of stage 2. Felt like we, you know, were back, you know, better than we were at the end of the final stage to just take off and lead. I look at things as having a chance if you're going to have a chance to win, you have to lead laps and you have to have speed. So to me, that's the first step, and we'll figure out how to make it handle better than it did, you know, there in the latter part of the race. But you know, once we had the debris on the splitter, I think that was a great lesson for everybody. You know, you hear us talk about, you know, the sensitivity to the front of the cars, but we went from a 12 laps wide open to not being able to make the corner because of a piece of windshield tear off, you know, on the splitter and wrapped around the splitter. And for us at that point, we kind of were chasing our tail. We had to put a set of tires on, didn't have any tires at the end, restarted on the bottom, and just kind of treaded water there at the end once we got our lap back. But speed-wise and the way that the weekend went, you know, we'll figure the rest of it out. You have to be able to lead laps to consistently win these races.
Here to Phil.
Hi, Kevin. Hill Overton, WIXC Radio. This track, of course, has 24 degrees of banking, same as in 1960 when it started. That's at both ends. But yet people say, even though with the same banking, it's difficult more at one end than the other. Where do you find the most difficult part to negotiate here, and where do you get through it the best?
Yeah, well, the only thing the same is from 1960s here is probably the grandstands and the snack bar up top. But, you know, I think as you look at this particular racetrack, this is a really tough racetrack to navigate from a handling standpoint, you know, because it's very moody. You know, the sun is as effective on this racetrack as it is any other racetrack that we go to. There's a lot of little bumps that are in the wrong spots to keep your speed up through the corner that you have to navigate well. So this is especially next week it's a tough race to handle, because you start in the sunlight, you go out of the sunlight, and there's just so many things that change throughout the night, and then you add in the traction compound that they've put on the racetrack that wears out, you know, as you go through the night. So this is a tough racetrack to get the handling right on the car and keep it right.
Excuse me. Any final questions for Kevin? All right, Kevin, good luck going back to back.